What's going on, guys? Today I'm going to attempt to survive 100 days in hardcore ARK Survival Evolved on the island. For the hardcore aspect, I'll be playing on official settings, and if I die, I can no longer play, with the world being over. Now, since ARK days are pretty long and there's no sleeping, I'll be splitting the series up into two parts. This video being days 1 through 50, with the next video being days 51 through 100. We will see within these next 100 days if I can live long enough to beat the Overseer by myself. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe. It'd be greatly appreciated. Now, let's dive straight into this video. Day 1, the start to my adventure. After I get through the painfully long 10-minute cutscene, I begin to survey the area around me and just make sure everything's totally safe. Disclaimer, there'll be a lot of that going on throughout this video. I begin doing the things that everyone does when they first start their playthrough. Collecting material, picking up rocks, punching trees. However, I have to stay safe, because if I die, it's over. I then make myself some tools. I don't go far from where I spawned. There are a lot of known raptors in the area, and I just need to avoid them at all costs. I'm very vulnerable right now. I need to harvest all necessary materials as safely as possible. My main goal for these next few days is to level up enough to where I have access to armor, bolas, and a bow. With those items, I'll have a higher chance against some of the dangers that I may face. While harvesting, I killed a dodo that gave me birthday cake. I have no clue what the hell the cake is used for, but I was surely disappointed, as you could probably see by my confusion when examining it in my inventory. I also put a cap on because I'm extremely bougie. However, I found a real dodo and was happy again. I'm sorry, little one. I take no pleasure in killing you, but I need your meat and your hide. With the end of the day coming to its end, I decided to make myself a thatched structure. Not that this would really defend me from anything, but it makes me feel safer, so don't judge me. I spawned in South Zone 1, which is considered an easy zone, but don't let that fool you. I've been killed here before. As of right now, if I see a raptor, I am toast, so once again, don't judge me for being cautious. After I struggled to put the roof on, I examined my little beach I've claimed. The beach base is starting to take shape with my small little hut in a fire, and I'm proud. As nighttime presents itself, I think of collecting berries for the night, but I get scared after a while and spend the night inside my little home. Day 2, and I have now crafted myself some cloth armor, and I feel powerful. I also crafted up a bow and some arrows, and as you could probably tell, I was very excited. I then wanted to test out my new weaponry, so what better thing to do than kill a dillo? I can't have these things sneaking up on me already, so it has to be done. By killing them, I will also save the lives of some parasaurs, so instead of the dillos killing them, I can. Like the alpha I am. I strike at one with another following me, but I easily kill him as well. I feel the power running through my veins. I then harvest them for their delicious meat and notice a Spino in the distance. Oh lord, like I must stay away. I then find myself a Trilobite. These things are sea bugs and they are basically a jackpot. They give you a good amount of valuable resources pretty easily, and if I can get oil without having to risk my life swimming with the sharks, I will do whatever it takes. Even if it means killing this animal that just makes the worst sound when you kill it. I mean, does anyone else feel bad? Just me? Okay. After some killing and some more harvesting, I go inside for the night. Yes, I am still a pussy. Day 3 starts out exciting. I need to kill animals for hide. With the turtle being the only killable thing in my area, that's just what I went for. It was either this or leaving my safe beach, and I was not going to risk my life dying to a Spino on day 3. With all the hide I was collecting, I wanted to make myself a raft. So that's what I did. I made a raft. I want to sail away to a safe place, so I began setting up my raft for the voyage ahead. I have plans to make my compound on Herbivore Island. You may judge me, but I cannot die, and having to constantly worry about raptors and other predators is simply just not enjoyable. After spending most of the day harvesting for my raft and constructing it, basically just adding some foundations, a storage box, and a bed for the voyage I plan on taking the next day, I go inside for the night. While inside, I unlocked some engrams, transferred some of my items to my raft storage box, and left nothing behind. Day 4, I wake up bright and early and I do a quick survey of the beach that I once called home for the last 3 days. It'll certainly be a tough goodbye, but it needs to go. I then wanted to make sure I didn't leave anything in my storage boxes, so I double-checked and grabbed anything that I forgot. I was ready to set sail. My excitement was at an all-time high. Herbivore Island is one of my favorite places on the island map. It has a lot of great dinos to tame, good room for a compound, and it's very rich in metal along with other resources. And did I mention it's safe? The journey isn't long, but it could be dangerous. When I'm sailing, I'll need to stay close to the land so a whale doesn't destroy my raft and me with it. They are known to spawn in a lot in this area. As you can see on the map, there's a little dot in the lower right-hand side. If you guessed Herbivore Island, you'd be correct. Now, just because I make my main compound on Herbivore Island does not mean that I will never leave. I'm very eager to tame different dinos all around the map. Just as far as the main base goes, I want mine to be a safe haven. At least this compound will be my main compound for the next coming days. But I just wanted to clear that up. As much as I would like to live out the rest of my days safely on Herbivore Island, it wouldn't make for a very entertaining video. After sailing for a little while, I stop at an island that is known to have Explorer Notes. If you don't know what Explorer Notes are, they fit into the ARK story, but that's not why I care about them. They also give double XP along with a good boost of XP when opening them. Even though it's slightly dangerous, there are 3 known notes on this island and I wanted to grab some of them. I grabbed the first note with ease and started heading to the next. After I see it, I head towards it, and realizing after I've gotten plenty of XP, I choose not to go for the third. I didn't want to push my luck knowing raptors commonly spawn here. So I decided to leave and sail off into the direction of Herbivore Island once again. Off in the distance, you can see it! Herbivore Island. Now, nighttime does quickly approach. There was a decent amount of sailing that day, so I decided to dock myself on a small island there to spend the night. I was not risking anything before getting there. I plan on putting levels in and unlocking some of the new engrams that I now have access to. They were quite a bit that I was actually very excited to see. Those Explorer Notes are very handy, and lucky for me, there are 3 more on Herbivore Island. For the remainder of the night, I spent the rest of my time marveling and just looking at all the amazing new things that I could craft with all my new engrams, if I actually had any resources at all. On the morning of day 5, I remembered of a note that was right across from Herbivore Island, so I hopped off my raft and went in search for it. It is definitely risky doing this, since raptors commonly spawn here, but I'm built different, and the raptors hide from me. There are multiple other hostile creatures that could easily kill me if they saw me, but they are simply all just scared. That's what I tell myself. I spend a while looking, but I eventually notice the structure around the note, and I find the note. I feel very accomplished, so I head back to my raft, praying a raptor won't come and eat my face off. The XP is just too good to say no to. What can I say? It's an addiction. As I begin to reach a small island with another note on it, a whale attacks me. I slightly sharded in my pants, but it only hit my raft once and would have needed to hit it 2 more times to destroy it. I was on edge, however I collected my note and very cautiously tried to make my way back to the main landmass without getting killed. As you can probably tell, my fear is at an all-time high. I spent a very good amount of time trying to contemplate and get myself out of the predicament I was in. I surveyed the waters until I felt that I was totally safe to leave, and even then I was praying that this would not be how I go. It spent a while to maneuver around the rock, but eventually I made it to Herbivore Island, and look at it in all its glory. Not a single carnivore or hostile mob in sight. Once I made it to the island, I was unfortunately freezing to death. I had to spend the entire night freezing. I surrounded myself with fires and torches, and if I moved one step, I would be freezing again. I got to half health at one point, and it was very stressful judging the fact that this was supposed to be the most stress-free place that I could live. I spent about 10 minutes hoping that I would have enough wood and enough stamina to get through that miserable night. On day 6, I was thankful just to make it through the night. My first task was to collect a good amount of hide for some hide armor, so that's what I did. I then started crafting some more essentials, so I made a forge to start smelting some metal that I had gotten. I then made a smithy and tried to organize my storage boxes to a certain degree. I then wanted to get an Anki for metal. There is a ton of metal on this island, and I wanted to be able to fully utilize it. I spent the rest of my day looking for an Anki to knock out, and I wanted to go for a low-level Anki. I simply don't need anything super high-level for right now. Unfortunately, his friend had to get involved, and I also had to kill him, but you know that I can't say no to hide. It didn't take long to knock him out, and after the rest of the day and night, my little Anki finally had finished taming after only about 7 trank arrows to knock him out. I still have yet to figure out a name for him. Days 7 and 8 were pretty much the same thing. I just harvested a bunch of wood and stone for gates that I was putting up. Pretty exciting stuff. Day 9 and 10, I continued to collect resources to have for building my home. So far, I just laid down some foundations. On day 11, I did some more harvesting and home construction. On day 12, I tamed a stego. It did a lot of damage to the house when I was trying to knock it out. Somehow, just about everything I placed in that entire area needed repairing. Not even high level. Didn't use it for anything, it just definitely wasn't worth the tame. On day 13, you guessed, more home construction. It has taken a while and a lot of resources, but by the end of the night, I think I've finished for now. It looks good, but it's definitely not fully done, but I definitely need a break. Day 14, did some more final touches. I just basically began adding some essential items into the base, adding storage boxes, a smithy, forge, mortar pedestal, all the other essentials, and I felt relieved. I added a few more of my storage boxes and items from my storage that were previously outside the base, but for now I'm done. Day 15, I finally wanted to harvest some metals, so I took the Yankee out and spent all of day 15 harvesting. Mostly just walking to the metal and taking forever to bring it back to my forge. This was a very long and tedious process. Worth the metal, but still extremely annoying. And I had to do this multiple times. Day 16, I continued transferring and gathering metal. This was, once again, not fun, or any more fun than the first time I did it. But, again, the metal was worth it. Now, walk with me in slow motion as I suffer from extreme boredom. There was still some left to be collected, but I was extremely sick of this, so I quit. Nearly dying in the process, but we're good. My Anki got stuck, got a little scared that he might die when he fell, but he didn't take any damage. I guess I kind of should have suspected that. Day 17, I wanted to get a PT to venture out. However, they are all extremely low level and are practically useless. I'm now realizing I'm going to have to lower my standards until I can find a better one on the mainland. By nightfall, after a long day of killing, I made some flak. By day 18, I was sick of no longer having a flyer and no longer took level into consideration. I tamed a crap PT for the time being and spent the rest of the day and night trying to level him. This was a very painful process. Day 19, knowing I could no longer continue to use something this bad, I set my sights for an Argentavis. I didn't need anything extreme, just something halfway decent. As you can see in a clip of me resting, I was beginning to lose my mind. My PT could fly for about 3 seconds before once again running out of stamina. Once I found an RG worth taming, I trapped him with ease. However, I lost my crap PT in the process. Due to this, I had to 100% tame this RG or I would be screwed. Day 20, the RG finished taming, and I spent the rest of the day and night bringing him back to camp. Day 21, I realized I needed more forges if I wanted to have all the metal cooked by the time I finished my playthrough. Day 22 through 25, I spent AFK waiting for the metal to cook. I was thoroughly exhausted from all that taming and wanted a break. Day 26, I realized there are better things to do than just sit there, so I went out and did a bunch of random stuff, such as tame a Phemonia because it looked weird. I mean, look at this thing. You can't tell me this isn't the weirdest thing you've ever seen. By nightfall, I placed a fabricator, finally, and decided to spend the rest of the night trying to get some narco berries. By day 27, I really wanted some cryopods, so I checked what I needed and began to prepare myself to venture out and get the resources I would need. Of course, I had to grab some metal first. Before leaving, I wanted to have plenty of trinks, so I'd need a lot more berries. I decided to tame a Bronto. These things are completely broken and are easily the most efficient way of getting berries. The Bronto tamed easily, and I mean, take a look at those berries. I pretty much now have an unlimited supply. With all these narco berries, I was finally able to craft up a ton of trank arrows for the taming I planned on doing the next coming days. Day 28, I was ready to venture out again. I am finally coming out of my shell. I got a scope at my long neck, which is pretty exciting. Then I saw an explorer note, so of course I couldn't pass up the opportunity. Throughout the day, I continued flying and towards my destination, looking for dinos or grabbing pretty much anything that could be of value. I wanted to tame pretty much anything, but I had a few dinos in mind. Day 29, I went to the ice zone for some polymer, but got distracted by some sea bugs and oil. This stuff is just too good to pass up. Eventually, I found some penguins. Fortunately for them, I killed them quick and painlessly. Unfortunately for them, their friends had to watch me beat their corpse with a club. I'm sure they were thoroughly confused. I then crafted up some cryopods with polymer that I had just collected. That was the last resource that I needed. This was pretty exciting, so I made a decent amount of them to hold me off for a while. I don't think that I'll need a ton, but I wanted to be safe, and you can really never have too many of these. This was also very risky. I didn't want to spend a lot of time just sitting in the water. I was basically offering myself up to the sarcos and the piranhas. Looking back on this clip, I didn't even survey the waters around me. I am extremely lucky. Throughout the rest of the day, I continued to collect a few more resources and continued to fly around the map looking for dinos throughout the night. On day 30 and 31, I found myself a Rex. Now in the video, you clearly see me knocking out an RG. Before this, a level 96 Rex attacked me while I was setting up the trap, and I panicked, forgetting to record. I thought I had clipped it, but unfortunately I just took a screenshot. However, the tame was successful. Anyways, I took out the RG with ease and watched it over the night. This guy was over level 100, and it was just too good to not pass up. I tamed it throughout the night along with the Rex without really any problems. A few more hyenas got close, but I took care of them with the RG. Day 32, I spent my time going back to camp and threw out my Rex. On early morning of day 33, I threw out my new RG. I wanted to allow it to passive level for a little while. After placing it, I realized I had a male and female, and as you could probably tell, I was pretty excited. Also, I took a look at their stats, and they're not half bad. I then went to make myself some gasoline for the generator I made. This was also pretty exciting. I'd been wanting to make one for a while now, and finally had the time and the resources. I spent a little while deciding where I wanted to put it. The first place, by the fabricator, I just didn't really like for some reason. I don't know why, but at the time it just looked off. I then decided to move it by the door. I don't really know why I decided to move it here. It looked a lot better by the fabricator, but oh well. And for some odd reason I added 2 doors to my house so I could finally remove one. This is where I'd also place my fridge. This was also something I wanted for a long time, and I finally had one. The fridge took a little while to figure out the exact placement of it, and I couldn't tell if it was meshing into my wall or not, which was also quite annoying, but I eventually figured it out. Unfortunately, due to the placement of the fridge, I could not place my wall correctly. After removing my door and door frame, I wanted to obviously fill the hole, and I couldn't. This was very aggravating due to the fact that I could no longer pick up my fridge. After deciding I wasn't going to remove my fridge, I had to figure out a solution for this wall. I thought of just leaving a hole in the wall and having some character to the house, but that looks really, really bad. So I decided to at least have some sort of wall there and try to cover it up the best that I could. I went with the opposite wall look, and it looks pretty bad with nothing, so I covered it up with a war map. This still didn't fully cover it, but it makes it look a lot better, and you can't really tell. I also like the addition of the war map. It's not that bad looking. On day 34, I wanted to get myself a high-level PT. I was tired of slowly flying around on my RG, so I spent a decent amount of time looking for some with some good levels. I couldn't really find anything amazing though, so I settled with average. After I embarrassingly missed my first bola attempt, I waited for him to land and got him on the second try. I took him out with a few trank arrows to the head. Pretty basic stuff, but I decided I wanted to give him some prime meat. Even though this is not a very high level tame and it's probably not worth the prime, I have easy access to it. I went to a nearby stego, killed it pretty easily, and brought back the prime. I eventually waited for the PT to starve, put the prime in its inventory, and it tamed pretty quickly. I eventually brought it back to base because, well, I didn't want to have to make it follow me, so I could put the saddle on him. After I examined its stats, they are pretty bad, so I wanted to look for some more. Feeling sad about the crappy stats that I had gotten on the PT I had just tamed, I decided to look for some other PTs around the island. Unfortunately, they were all extremely low level, and instead of just letting them roam free, I decided I'd kill them. I went on a little bit of a killing spree, and I have to admit I had a lot of enjoyment doing this. It was pretty easy. I like scoping with long neck, and I think I have decent aim, so I just took out all the low levels and hoped that good ones would eventually spawn in. Not long after, I made myself an industrial grill. After all those PTs I killed, I had a lot of extra meat, and I was tired of starving constantly, and eating berries takes too long, so I decided to cook up a bunch of meat. I now am happy that I didn't place the generator where I did, because this is a perfect spot for the grill. After placing the grill, I wanted to get myself some meat, so I scoured my base and looked for all the meat that I could find. After collecting a decent amount from most of the PTs I just got done killing, I put it in. While waiting for it to cook, I decided to breed up my RGs. I really love these 2 RGs, but I want one imprinted to me, and these are already great, but I want something spectacular. For now, I don't have a breeding area or any air conditioners, so I decided to put it in my fridge. After that, I went to look for some more PTs. I continued to find nothing but low levels. This was extremely aggravating. All I did was basically kill for the rest of that day. It was actually pretty entertaining. There were a few shots that I'd missed, and I have to admit this is a bit of a fail reel right here, but come on, these shots are pretty close, and I don't really know where they're missing. This PT, however, was really aggravating me. I thought that I had hit him multiple times, but he kept avoiding my bullets. I eventually hit him with a body shot and wanted to chase him down. This kill had meant a lot to me. I eventually killed him, and it was a level 4. I have no idea how he survived the body shot, but I was pretty angry at him, so I aggressively teabagged him. I was very aggravated with the PTs on this map. I then went out with my RG for a little while, and saw a weird flock of PTs. Don't know what that was about. During the night, I gave myself a buzz cut. I left the beard because it matched, and I really have no other haircuts. I then made myself some narcotics, and decided to go out again. On day 35, I went out. I was looking for Megalodons. You need Megalodons for a lot of the underwater artifacts, and I don't feel safe enough on a manta or a dolphin, so I stuck with the Megalodon. While traveling, I ran into a few explore notes, and they were just too good to pass up, so of course I had to show you. While looking, I didn't really find any Megalodons that were super high level, and anything that was decently high level was really far out in the ocean and way too much of a risk for me. After a while, I finally found one that was decent level. I decided to bring it back to the beach because, well, I didn't want to have to shoot it from my RG, so I decided to go out in the water and try to lure it close to the beach. I actually hit it, but it, some reason, didn't aggro. I continued to go far, but there were other Megalodons in this area that could kill me, so I didn't want to push my luck. I then decided that I could try to trap one if I lured it close enough to the shallow water, so I went out and collected a lot of resources to make myself some gates. This would eventually come in handy, but, disclaimer, it doesn't happen now. I go back into the water, but all the high-level Megalodons, for some reason, went out of render. I have no idea why they swam away from me, but it was pretty aggravating. I saw myself a whale, which was pretty scary, and ended up killing myself a jellyfish, which was actually pretty helpful, but I continued to fly away because there were no other Megalodons worth taming in sight. After flying for a while, I figured I might as well go for a Rex. This was basically my best option. While flying, I ran into a cake dodo again. I had to get my revenge. I missed my shot. As he laughed in my face, I butchered him with my axe. I had a lot of pleasure in doing this, and of course, I finished him off with a teabag. I did eventually start finding some Rexes, but they were all low level. I needed something over level 100 if I had any chance of these making it through the boss fights, so any low level Rex that I saw, I'd kill. My RG is very powerful, and it's very helpful that it kills the Rexes as fast. After no success, I decided to fly back to camp. This took majority of the day and night. On day 36, I was not ready to give up on the Megalodon, so I decided to make myself some scuba gear and go close to camp. I ended up finding a high-level Megalodon pretty early on, so that's what I went for. Thankfully, he aggroed to me pretty quickly as well. After aggroing him, I decided that I wanted to get him trapped. I had the gates from the original Megalodon that I tried using this on, so I went for the trap. Eventually, he started staring at the sand. I don't really know why. He didn't show any interest to me. The ARK AI in this game seems to be a little broken, but I tried to punch it and aggro it to see if it would chase me. It still didn't, so I decided maybe I could trap it here. As soon as I placed my wall, however, he decided now was the time to move. I don't really know what's going on with ARK right now, but the devs need to fix this. This is very aggravating. Eventually, he started staring at sand again, so I started shrinking him, but then again, he got aggroed at me. I eventually lured him back to my cage because, well, this was the perfect opportunity, and I nearly got him trapped. I successfully got the second wall down. Don't really know if he could have gotten out of this. I think he could have, but he's pretty much just really dumb, so I was able to easily trank him. Once again, he showed absolutely no interest to me. I really don't know why. I didn't trank him that much to where he was trying to run away. He just decided that the sand was a very interesting thing to look at. After tranking him for a while, I did eventually knock him out. It took quite a bit of trank arrows, and I was pretty scared the entire time that another Megalodon would come kill me, but I got him taken out. I then realized I had no fish meat, so I went out and got some and gave it to him. This was not prime, and I wish it was, but I had no idea what to kill to give myself raw prime fish meat. Eventually, he tamed. Pretty quickly. I made him a saddle while he was taming, and I decided to take him out for a little while. I decided I'd take him out for a little bit and try to get him some XP, so I killed a few fish in the nearby area, but he had low stamina and I also didn't have a lot of patience, so after killing one fish and not really getting any XP, I decided to quit. This isn't a bad Megalodon. His speed is pretty nice, and his stamina can definitely level up quite a bit more, but I don't know how he'll hold against much tougher dinos, especially those in those artifact caves along with the loot drops. Those are very, very dangerous, and if he can't hold his own, then I will die as well, which cannot happen. After cryoing my Megalodon, I went back to land and found the 112 PT, so of course I couldn't pass up the opportunity. I successfully knocked him out and wanted to get him some prime, so I killed a nearby Bronto. While killing this Bronto, I now realize how powerful RGs actually are. They're very tanky and they do a ton of damage. I definitely looked past this for most of my ARK career. I eventually gave the prime to the PT and basically just sat by it waiting for it to tame. I looked around the island for other PTs in the area, and there were some relatively high levels, but they weren't over level 100, and that was my new rule. Anything lower than level 100 was not worth taming. I needed high level dinos for these second stages of the game. Going through boss fights and artifacts and everything else, I needed stuff that could keep me alive. Nothing but the best. Not long after taming, I took him out. I wanted to give him some levels, and I also wanted to look for some more Rexes. I found a few explore notes, which definitely leveled him up enough, and he had a decent amount of baseline stamina, so I flew him to the destination that I wanted to get to. Eventually, I did pull out my RG. I wanted to have it for good measure. It's definitely a lot more of a PvP bird, and my PT is pretty weak. After getting to the zone where the Rexes would spawn in, I pulled my RG out. This was just my best option. On the way getting to this place flying, I didn't really notice any Rexes. This is the North Zone, and they're pretty common here, so I was a bit confused, but I knew I wasn't leaving here empty-handed. We're approaching day 50, and I need to start breeding up Rexes for these boss fights. I'm going to need quite a bit, and I want to improve the lines as much as I can before taking them to the boss fights. I continued to fly around with my RG for a while. I noticed a couple of high-level tames, so I was hoping me increasing the difficulty would eventually make it better. I then spotted a Rex, but it was once again pretty low level. I had to kill it because I have no other choice. These Rexes need to die. I need higher level ones to spawn in, and this RG is very efficient at killing these things. You may wonder why I'm killing every Rex I see instead of just taming them and using them for boss fights anyway, but the dino stats along with my own are at 1 times multiplier, which means they are basically as strict as official gets. And I need the best of the best to stay alive. These boss fights will definitely be the hardest part of this entire playthrough, and I am going to need to stay alive. I don't want to die after putting all this work in. I look around all the time for very common boss fight dinos, such as Therazinos, those bug destroyer things that I'm looking at right now, and basically anything else that is useful for a boss fight, including Daedons, Utaranuses, so on and so forth. These are things that I will need, and I'm going to need absolutely every advantage I can get when I'm going to be doing this by myself. While we're on the topic of boss fights and breeding, I kind of wanted to cover what I'd be doing the next 50 to 100 days. I do plan on doing all of the Gamma boss fights, including the Broodmother, the Monkey, and the Dragon. With all of those complete, if I successfully do those without dying, I plan on doing the Overseer fight. This is what I wanted to do all along throughout this series, and that's why I've been starting to go for Rexes so early. As far as breeding goes, I have increased the breeding intervals, along with the breeding multiplier and the breeding speed and the maturing speed. I am doing this all in 100 days by myself. Some of you may be upset by that since this is considered hardcore, but there's no possible way that I'd be able to get all that done without accomplishing other goals in this series. So instead of breeding for the next 50 to 100 days, I decided to make it a little easier on myself so I could get all this done in the amount of time that I have. What you need to realize is I am by myself, and I'm going to have to get all the artifacts, all the items that I need for those artifacts, along with saddles, good blueprints, all of which while having a decent amount of dinos to complete all those boss fights with. This is going to take a really long time, and to do so, I needed to give myself a little bit of an advantage. Of course, I'm still keeping my own stats the same. I'm keeping the dino stats the same. That's really the only thing that I've increased this entire series besides taming. Taming, once again, speaks for itself. Since it is a pretty long process on 1 times multiplier, I did also multiply that as I have mentioned before. If you would all like to see all of my stats for this world, I will put them in the link in the description. I know that many of you may not agree with some of the things that I am doing, but this is what I need to do to complete everything in this amount of time by myself. Anyways, I eventually did find some more Rexes, but I found an RG as well. I wanted to kill basically any hostile mob in the area because, well, I didn't want it messing with my tame. There was a level 116 Rex, and there was no way I was letting it go. Not to mention it was female, so it could breed with my male. I spent a while going back and forth with this RG. RG versus RG fights are never very fun or entertaining, and they're pretty hard to get a hit off of, but eventually I killed it. Once killing it, I went down to find the 116 Rex, and it had wandered off a lot further than I thought. I waited for it to kill whatever it was fighting. I didn't really want to have to deal with those things as well, so I cryopotted my RG and decided to go for the Rex. My taming strategy for this Rex is basically to run around it. Any hostile mob that tries to attack me while taming, the Rex will take out for me. I'm able to avoid the Rex and maneuver around it, so that's what I do. I don't need to have my RG involved. It's basically just risking my RG's life, and I can do this on my own. If I do need to bail on the last second, I throw my RG out and fly away. It's a pretty easy strategy. Eventually, the Rex knocked out. Didn't really take a lot of damage, but when you hit it in the head multiple times, it does take a lot of torpor. I eventually just started flying around the Rex and surveying the area around me, making sure everything was safe and making sure that nothing would go to attack my Rex. There was no possible chance that I was going to let this Rex die. This was the one Rex I needed, and you have no idea how long I've spent looking for these Rexes. I've even gone in and changed the day lengths, make the days slower so I would have more time to look. I know, once again, me changing the stats mid-world may frustrate some of you, but I really wanted to have time to do everything that I've planned on doing. This really isn't cheating in a way, it's basically just giving me more time and more content for you guys, so don't complain. I continue to go around and fly around my Rex looking for basically anything that could potentially be a problem. Off in the distance, I saw an aloe that progressively got closer, so I decided to kill him. This RG was extremely overpowered and killed basically anything with ease, so I really wasn't worried about it. Of course, I'd get nervous leaving my Rex when something else could sneak up on it, but I had to trust myself, and I eventually got back to the Rex, and of course, nothing was nearby. Also, for a quick update, for those that are wondering, it's now day 39. This is a pretty long tame, but I was also out and about looking for a long time, and I just didn't want to update you every single day of me just flying around, even though that's basically what I'm doing right now. Eventually, the Rex tamed. It had no problems, and I was actually extremely excited. All that pressure was now relieved, and I could now begin breeding, so that's now what I plan on doing. After cryopotting the Rex, I decided to head back to camp. This was basically the best thing in my interest, and I didn't really want to stay out here any longer. I wanted to get my Rex back to camp so I could start breeding as soon as possible. It was a long fly back, especially on the slow RG, but I eventually made it back by around day 41. I threw the new Rex out, and it was early morning of day 43. For the rest of the day, I spent time gathering materials for Rex saddles. I wanted to be able to ride them, and after harvesting far more than I needed, I made 2 saddles, because why not? Day 44, I wanted to go out and do some leveling on my Megalodon, so that's what I did. After a lot of altercations, my shark was pretty bloodied up, so I took him back. I didn't want him to sit in a cryopod all the time, especially when he needed to heal, so I decided to put him in the crescent within the island. I wanted to block it off to keep him safe, so I spent a lot of time harvesting and eventually got the resources to enclose the whole thing. By the morning of day 45, it was finished. It wasn't the most pretty thing I've ever made, but it's done and my sharks are safe. This will be a breeding center for the inside of the island. I just need to get more dinos. After examining my wall, I decided to breed my Rexes on day 45. I also went to Greenob to see what it would take for a boss fight. I didn't realize this, but I only needed the artifacts. I was not only surprised, but very relieved. There was now a lot less stuff I had to worry about. I then went back to base because I have a new project in mind. I want to clear out an area right next to Greenob for breeding, so once the boss fights do come around, I'll be able to walk the dinos up to Greenob pretty quickly. It's a large project, but I want to get it done before day 50. All I plan on adding is a breeding platform and walling off the area to keep the dinos safe. I went back to base to craft some stuff and came back when I had what I needed. After 3 days of gathering and harvesting and crafting, along with placing, I thought my area was finally complete. All I needed now was the breeding platform with the generator and everything else on it. As you can see here, it's pretty close to Greenob, and all I have to do is walk the dinos up the platform into the area where I will be doing the boss fights. I then place the generator and the air conditioners on the breeding platform. It's not huge, but it's big enough for what I need. As you can see in the overhead angle, the area is not massive. It's not pretty either, but it's enough for what I need for now. Day 50, I knew I had one more stop I needed to make. So I went over to the south zone where I made my first base. It's a small little area, a lot less stuff than I remembered, and a lot safer looking than I remembered, but I enjoyed myself here. Once I saw pure evil, I looked it in the eye and killed it. What better way to end day 50? Thank you to all of you who made it this far. Stay tuned for part 2 with days 51 through 100. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to give it a like and subscribe. And comment down below any suggestions you have for any of my upcoming videos. Thank you, guys.